Have you ever thought that the pen tool was a little too confusing to learn? Well, I did. Well, today you're going to learn how to use the pen tool in Photoshop. Coming up. Hello and welcome to It's Never Too Late to Learn. My name is Charles Cabrera. Here we bring you short and easy tutorials for everyone just starting out with Photoshop, Lightroom, and photography. If you'd like to learn this way, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything. So today's video is all about the pen tool. I'm going to show you the benefits of using the pen tool, how to actually start using the pen tool, how to edit the selections you create using the pen tool, and finally how to cut somebody out of their background using the pen tool. The pen tool is very useful in Photoshop. It's the most advanced and accurate way to make a selection in Photoshop. It takes a little bit longer to cut something out, but it's very accurate. So let's get into the tutorial. So to start out, I'm going to show you the basics of the pen tool. Then we're going to switch to an image and work on that. Here on the toolbar, we have all of the pen tool operations, but we're going to use keyboard shortcuts. It's going to be so much easier. So the keyboard shortcut for the pen tool is P. After you click on P, go up here to the toolbar and make sure that path is selected. Also, when working with the pen tool, make sure the auto add delete box is checked in the options bar up here. So now we're going to make some shapes with the pen tool. We're going to click and add points. Every time you add a point, it's called an anchor point. And when you get to this last corner over here, there's an O right behind the pen tool pointer itself. And that means you're about to close this path. So notice over here there's a tab called Paths. When you click on that, you'll see that there's something called Work Path. That is the path that the pen tool created. And the path is saved so that you can go back to it later. That's one of the advantages of using the pen tool. You can go back to this path, bring it up again, and edit your path. So I'm going to double click on this and rename it. So the path is just what the pen tool created and saved. It's not the same thing as a selection. We'll go through that in a minute here. So now I'm going to come down here to the Create Path icon, and I have a new path that I'm going to work on now. This time I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click, and the pen tool is going to make a straight line. Now this is probably a good time to show you this. If I've clicked off the path, you could see that the anchor points are no longer showing. So this is kind of like what would frustrate me when I was working on paths and you click off and you want to go back in and edit it. Well, there's a couple ways you could do that. You can come over here and anywhere on this square here, you can press Command or Control and click, and your path is going to come back. And so then you can move your path again by clicking Command or Control. See, I can move any of these corners. I can also move a line. So if I'm on a line and I click Command or Control, I can move my line. Another way you can get back to your path is if you click Alt or Option and click on the path name itself, your anchor points will come back and you can go back in and edit your path. So earlier I mentioned have the auto add delete option selected up there on the toolbar, and the reason why is if you hover over a point, there's a minus right behind the pen tool pointer. That means you can delete that point if you click on it. Also, what that option click does is if you hover over a point or a line, you see that it's a plus. So you're going to be able to add a point. So let's go a little bit further with some of the basics. We drew some straight lines. Let's draw some shapes. We have some curves here. So with the pen tool, just click and drag. And as you can see, we're creating this shape here with all these different points. So now I can come back into my shape and click on Command or Control. And here I am able to move my point. I can click on, these are called handles, and I can change the shape or the direction of my curve. And as you can see, this handle controls this side of the curve, and this handle controls this curve. So I can go to any of these and click on them, move them around, change my curve. Also on this curve, I can go to any of these anchor points, click Alt or Option, and change that curve basically into a straight line. Or I can change a point back to a curve, just hit Alt Option, click and drag, and see I have handles back, and I can delete points by just clicking on it. Can add a point by just clicking on a line, click and drag. So that's the basics. So what the pen tool is really good at is cutting shapes out of a photo, or even cutting people out of a photo. Let's go to an image. Okay, we're going to work on this image here. A couple of tips before we get started. First, let's zoom in a little bit, because this is a good way to work when you're trying to cut out someone out of a photo. And I'm going to hit Command plus on my keyboard to zoom in a little bit. Press the space bar down and you can see this hand, and move your subject around like that. So a good thing to try and do is make as few points as you can when you click and drag. Try and go to what they call a simple curve, and just try it. I mean, I know you're going to have to practice this, and it's going to take some time, but take your time. Make as few points as you need to. So we click and drag. And go as close as you can, or a little bit on the inside. So look here, I can press Command and move this point over, kind of correct it. And so curves, or the pen tool wants to make curves. But in this case right here, we're going to need to change directions. So press Alt or Option and grab this point and bring it down. And then click over here and continue your curve. And you can correct things any way you need to here. Also, when you're cutting out something like this, don't be afraid to simplify things like clothing. And I'm going to kind of do that right here. Press the space bar down. try and make little changes, little points here. Very difficult around a hand and fingers. I see right there I can move this. Command or Control. And this here is something that could be your own choice if you want to actually get all this detail. Pen tool is going to give us very accurate cutouts. We can always go back into the path and edit this at any time. Now the pen tool isn't perfect for cutting out hair, so we're not going to worry a whole bunch about this right now. We're just trying to get the idea of how to use the pen tool. So we'll go as close as we can on the inside edge. Gonna move this point over. And now see, I've already broken that, so I'm going to hit Command Z to undo all that. Click on the last point I was on. Move this down. And like I say, you can make a choice here if you want to simplify the clothing. So we're just basically clicking and dragging. I'm going through this pretty quickly. So here we have our selection, or here we have our path that's complete. And if I right click on my path and say make selection, and I'm going to feather it by 0.5 pixels here. And here's my selection. So now she is cut out of the background. Could add a layer and fill it with white, and she's on a white background. So I can come in here and anything I missed, I can use the pen tool again. By my layer selected, and if I want to come around here and touch this up, I could just move around the image with my brush tool, with a soft brush with the layer selected, and paint over these edges if it's just on the edge with black. And so that's what we would do. We would go around the image and touch up anything that we wanted to get perfect. But as you can see, it doesn't do well on the hair, but the idea is that you use the pen tool to cut out this image, and it didn't take that long. Just practice with making a few points, and remember that you always have the path, the work path that the pen tool created. You can go back at any time and edit that path. So now you know how to use the pen tool. The more you use this tool, the quicker and better you'll become at it. Now you can cut anything out of its background. So that brings us to the question of the day. Now that you know how to use the pen tool, are you more likely to use it more often than other selection methods? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks again for watching. If this was helpful, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And if you want more short and easy tutorials, see the ones above. And remember, it's never too late to learn. See you in the next tutorial.